How are you, Alex?
I'm good, Rick. How are you?
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Nice to finally meet you.
Yes.
After all these years.
Okay, so if I say to you, I'm just going to get right into this.
Sure.
What is the Lifeson Chord? Do you know what I'm talking about if I say that?
Yeah. I guess it kind of goes like this.
Yes. Okay, isn't it interesting that people actually call it that?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, somebody else must have played it before me.
That's the first place I heard it. I heard it on the radio on WCMF when I heard Xanadu. I heard that chord, and I was like, what is that? It just blew me away. And I mean, I had to go figure it out. I was like, I have no idea what that is.
F sharp suspended fourth, or
I don't know. It's something like
crazy,
F sharp 7 sus 4.
Sus 4. Okay.
That's exactly what it is. With a third. So it's. I mean, sometimes we call it a F sharp 7 add 4.
I just call it the Lifeson Chord.
That's it. The Lifeson Chord is great.
But you know what? It came from.
Yes. When you get into that in Xanadu, there's that whole sequence where you're using all those drone strings.
Yeah. So they're not, complete bar chords. They're just open.
But you actually have so many cool chords like that. Like in La Via Strangiato, you have that dun dun. Yes. That's just beautiful.
No One at the Bridge from Crest of Steel. How did that chord go?
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Geddy, my first question. So you're going to embark on this tour and everything.
Yes.
You have all these songs. How many of the songs do you remember how to play right off the bat, not having played them in 10 years?
Yeah. I played pretty consistently over that time. Did the Envy of None projects that were really a lot of fun. Very different guitar approach to those. But when we started really getting serious about going back to the Rush material, I kind of forgot how hard they were, because really I never thought of them as being that difficult. They were just natural for me. I know when I'm coming up with stuff, I often take the easiest route that sounds the most difficult. And I think a lot of guitarists do that.
Yeah.
I've listened to guitar players and I think, like Adam Jones, for example, how does he play that? And then, you kind of figure it out, or he shows you if you're lucky enough.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my God, that's way simpler than I thought. Yet it sounds really complex. Despite trying to make it easy, it was a real learning curve. You rely on muscle memory for.
Do you ever go back and look at videos of you playing live to see what you're doing?
I have. I have done. Yes, I have. Yeah.
YouTube's good for that, actually.
I guess they have lots of stuff on YouTube.
They do have a few things on there.
Yeah, it's kind of cheating, I guess, if you actually wrote the thing.
Right.
But yeah, I might have checked.
You have probably, 15 guitars, 20 guitars or so that you're going to be touring with, something like that.
Yeah.
This particular guitar, you picked out of there. You could have picked any guitar.
Yeah.
Why did you pick that guitar?
This has been my go-to for a lot of the stuff that requires a nice, big, solid Les Paul sound. It's a custom shop Tobacco Sunburst 1960 reissue. I have vintage guitars. In my case, the stuff that I bought new in the 70s are now vintage guitars anyways.
Yeah.
But I do have some stuff from the 50s, and I have a 58 ES335, which is quite awesome. And I've had some Les Pauls, but I've always believed that the new stuff is great. It's new, and they're tools, and you make them sound like you want them to sound.
Yes.
So I've never been sort of precious about vintage stuff like Geddy is, for example. I think he's a collector. He's a collector of a lot of different things, but a lot of his bass collection is all vintage stuff. This guitar, I think, sounds awesome.
Sounds
and
great.
They do such great work at the custom shop. Kurt Hammett got me one of the greenies, and it's amazing the work they did on it. It looks so authentic, and that thing sounds great. I mean, these guitars all sound really, really, really good.
Yeah.
So this is the one that sounds great. I've been playing it a lot. It feels good. So that's the one I went to.
When you were writing new songs for different records, like when you got your double neck and stuff like that, did you get the double neck to write new music with, or because you had to play them live, or like how did that work exactly?
Well, the double neck, there's no way I got that to write songs on. That guitar is so heavy.
Yeah.
Its purpose is two songs, Something for Nothing and Xanadu.
Yeah.
Both with Ricky's and my 1275, they're iconic to that song in particular.
That's right.
But 80% of the writing that I've done is on a Telly, a 52 Telly reissue that I got in 1980. Can I just grab it?
Absolutely.
Can you hang on to this for a
no
second?
problem.
So you got to check this out. So here, just, the way it sits in your lap.
Beautiful.
It feels so nice, right?
Yes.
And there's no weird balance thing. And the neck, I took all the finish off the neck.
That's really nice
So it's
that you
just
did that.
bare wood.
Yeah,
And
that
to
feels
clean it up,
good.
I just used some 400 sandpaper, run it back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
And it just gives me, I feel connected to the guitar. It served me so well.
The setup on this is great too.
Yeah, it feels
These
really nice.
tens, right? We were just talking about that.
10s to 46 lately.
Yeah.
I might have something heavier on there. I might have 49s or maybe even 52. I don't think it's 52.
No,
but
it feels like
I used to put 52s on here because I liked
actually
it.
it feels like a heavier bottom on here.
Yeah.
It actually does.
Yeah, I liked it on that guitar. But now that I'm so much older and my fingers complain a lot more, I've gone to 46s. So.
What did you used to use historically? Did you use 11s or something like that?
No,
Or would you use
always
like
10s. I give them the very early days, 9s.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
When you say the early days, up until when?
Probably up until the 80s, 1980s.
I tell people, younger players, I say, a lot of guys, and they grew up, I'm almost 64, would use 8s and 9s back in the days in the 70s. That was common. And
yeah, very common. Because
Yeah.
you wanted to bend those strings and you wanted the action as low as you could go and have the guitar as fast as possible.
Yeah.
I think there's arguments for the tonal quality in a heavier gauge. Just they ring differently and they sing differently. I've been kind of messing around with different gauges now, like 46, 49, 50, 52. I didn't even think you could get those kind of odd gauges. And I wonder, are they smart? Like, do they have the frequency that's correct for the standard tuning? I'm not sure. It sounds okay. And I think it's okay. But I wonder about that. If, that just the 1 degree difference changes the tonality or the harmonics, the higher harmonics particularly. Do you want me to get rid of this?
Yeah.
Or-
I don't want you to get rid of it. I want you to actually keep it. So what kind of rig were you playing as far as your guitar amp and guitars, like in the first few records?
Yeah, well, even before the first records, when we were playing clubs here in Toronto, at high schools from kind of probably 1970 to 74, I had a Marshall 50-watt head, which I traded in, I think in 1975 or 76, much to my deep regret. And I had a Marshall cabinet, and I rented it. I rented it from a place called Kahlua Music. And I rented it for years, maybe 2 years before.
You paid for it about 10 times.
Before I bought it out. After all. Yeah, I definitely paid for it 10 times over. When we signed our deal with Mercury Records in 1974, we got an advance, and we went shopping. It was the most exciting day to go to a music store. We went to Lonnie McQuaid's here in Toronto, a long-time music store. And I used to go there as a kid, and I'd go on Saturday, and I'd take down a Les Paul or a 335, or sometimes an SG, and sit on an amp and play for an hour until one of the salesmen came over and said, "Okay, beat it, kid, get out of here." And I'd come back the next week, and I would do the same thing, and they'd let me play for an hour, and then it was a beat it, kid, get out of here. And I did that almost every weekend. So to go back there and have like an open-ended checkbook, I bought a couple of guitars. I bought a Les Paul. I bought a 335, another 335, and I bought a couple of Marshall stacks. So they were 100-watt Marshall stacks and 4 cabinets, and Geddy got his SVTs, 2 SVTs and 2 cabinets, and we would split them, one stack
one
on
on
my
each side.
side,
Yeah, one
one
on the
stack on
other.
his, and same
Same
for
with
the
the
bass. So we could be
man.
extremely loud and dirty.
Yes.
I had that rig. I used that rig. I had a very simple, I think I had a Crybaby and a Maestro phase shifter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was kind of a phasey, almost pre-chorusy kind of thing. I never, I had a fuzz face in the early days, but I never really got into doing that kind of distortion. I was also always really moved by Pete Townsend and how he would, roll off the volume pot on his rhythm stuff. So there was clarity, and it was heavy, but it was at the same time it was clear and kind of just held back, reserve, and then he turned it up for any soloing. And I kind of followed that process. So I never really bothered with a fuzz tone or a distortion pedal. I think after maybe a year or almost 2 years, I traded the Marshalls in for high watts.
Okay.
And I had the high watts for a while.
Like a custom 50 or something, or custom 100?
Hundreds, yeah.
Okay. And same thing, 2 stacks?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really loved the way they sounded because they had the size and clarity.
Yes. Yeah.
Not quite as brittle as the Marshalls were back then. And eventually, I think around 1978 or 79, I saw Alan Holdsworth in London playing a club gig. And he was using the Marshall Twin 12, and I got 4 of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So through moving pictures, permanent waves, for those years and a few years following, that was my basic setup.
What were the pedals that you added during that period?
Okay, so I had an Echoplex.
Okay.
For sure, I had an Echoplex earlier on.
Yep.
And I had that until I got a Roland. So that was, rack mounted and made it a lot easier. Didn't have to worry about the tape and chewing tape up and all of that stuff. And then I got a rack, and I started filling the rack out with TC 2290?
2290, yeah.
I had a couple of those, and I had a TC Electronics 1210 for chorus. I had a loft for a time for delay, even though it was a very, very short delay.
Yeah.
And for chorus, I liked the loft for chorus in those early days too. When we were recording Farewell to Kings, I rented a JC 120, a Roland with the built-in chorus, the stereo chorus.
Yeah.
That's when I became addicted to chorus, and really I used chorus on almost everything for years. And I was thinking about it the other day. Kind of Andy Summers and I sort of discovered it around the same time, and it became quite identifiable with our style of playing or recording. And I remember being in the studio and just, after hours sitting in front of that amp, maybe a little puff or something, but sitting in front of the amp and listening to that chorus stereo going back and forth, it takes me back just even talking about it, how creamy and beautiful and evocative that sound was. Now, I've been using Fractal for a
while.
Yeah, in the last tour, I used a rack-mounted Fractal unit, and for a couple tours, I've got the Axe 3, and I just love it. The quality of all the effects are great. I'm running in stereo. They've been so incredibly supportive. And really, really wonderful to work with you. I'm sure you know Matt, and they're just really, really great. And I love their equipment, so I'm quite happy with that. And I'm down from all those Marshalls and high watts and H and K, Hughes and Kettner, and all of those things down to the Tonex.
Which is an amp.
They took all my amps that I had in storage. And I think they kept them for almost 2 years. They did all the modeling for the Tonex. When they sent this to me, and I listened to it, I really wasn't sure what to expect, because quite often these plugins and this sort of technology, prior to this generation, always felt like it was two-dimensional. It was just pasted on a window. there was no depth, and everything sounded kind of tight and compressed, and even working, with recording, a lot of those plugins sounded like that too. Now, I guess with the advent of AI helping with a lot of this.
The machine learning and stuff to make those things.
Now they sound like the greatest amps ever. There's depth in the bottom end. There's real character. I mean, it's not just the fuzziness and the noise that you get from an amp. It just responds beautifully, and different level changes, they just sound great. So, I worked closely with them on the Tonex, and they, came up with my package, and Nick Raskulinitz and I sat, and we, you saw that video.
Yeah.
We were both blown away by how amazing it sounded. So now when I do local gigs, I have a duffel bag, and the and the Flactor goes
Alex,
into there.
you're like the simplest setup here. This is so simple, but you have so many different sounds in there.
Yeah. When we got the kind of the playlist of the songs that we were going to play, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could just go back and emulate all those guitar sounds that I had from those records? You get a great guitar sound on stage on a tour, and you maybe have a dirty channel, a clean channel, and maybe like a hot channel. So you have those three, and it works kind of for everything, and it sounds great, blah, 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 blah. But I thought, if I could make the guitar sound from Tom Sawyer sound like that guitar sound, and Limelight, and go through the whole gamut of guitar sounds, wouldn't that be kind of cool?
Yes.
And really interesting to listen to, and fresh as it changes through the course of the night. It's not just that same thing. I've gone to lots of shows and great guitar players, great guitar sounds, but after an hour and a half, it's like it's the same sound. It's, it's nothing new. But I think keeping it fresh like this is going to be really cool for this tour.
Did you find that as you're writing for each successive record that you were looking for new sounds, but you also had a new vocabulary of parts? Every record there was new kinds of chord voicings and things like that.
Yeah, that's been our principle from the beginning as a band. We never really want to repeat. That's impossible to not repeat yourself, but at least that's the idea. You always want to move forward, and you want to progress in not only the style of music that you play, but as a musician yourself, and how you know the instrument and what your relationship becomes with the instrument. And for me, it was always really challenging with Geddy and Neil being as active as they were. So it forced me to come up with different chords. And I didn't want to repeat them. I didn't want to play that same Alex Lifeson chord for everything. But it forced me to think about what can I do in service of the song? Like, how can I make the song sound the best that it can from the guitar standpoint? And a lot of times it's simplifying. When you have two active players who are as great as those two guys are, it's important, I think, to just pull it back a little bit and simplify things. And I've never felt like I had to show off or well, maybe a little bit in those early days. You just got to play as fast as you can. But for me now, and for a long time, it's much more satisfying to just play something that really fits the mood, that reflects what the lyrics are talking about. Limelight, the solo in Limelight is one of my favorites because it's very simple, but it's so emotive.
Yes.
And it's so sad.
Tell me about that solo. As you and Geddy were talking before, that he kind of helps comp things. And
yeah, so I never had a problem with that. It was never that precious to me. I do have a problem in that I lose interest quickly. I'm always moving on.
Yeah.
My best takes are those first few takes. Usually the first take is fiddling with the sound and getting an understanding of how the guitar is going to respond to what I'm playing. Is that the right sound? We tweak it a little bit or whatever. But then it's those couple of takes after, 2 and 3, that I find really are quite expressive for me. 4 is not bad. 5, now I'm starting to lose it. Now I'm just getting repetitive, and I start at the same point, and that bugs me, and then I get it in my head, and so I'll do those 5 takes generally and stop. And I might go back in after we comp and go at it again, but quite often it's those 5 takes. So with Ged, I never had an issue it's mine. he loves doing that kind of stuff. And with Terry, they were a great team.
Yeah.
And they would do all the things that I would want to hear. So with the solo for Limelight, I remember we recorded that, it was late at night in the session, after midnight sometime, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something. And I think we had the cabinet outside.
Okay.
And we were up in the Laurentians at the studio, so no people around.
Yeah.
So we got a natural kind of echo off the hills, the mountains. And I used the Hantor Sportscaster.
Yeah.
Because I had the vibrato arm on it. And
Yeah.
I ran through, I think, 5 takes. And then I left the room, and I left it to them to comp. So there are a couple of things where, it dives down, and it comes right back up, and it picks up. So it became challenging to kind of recreate that for live. But I would not want it any other way, because it expresses that fragility of living that life and being at the center of all these things, and sometimes not really wanting to be. And really that's what Neil was speaking about. And it was such a big thing for him, particularly. So I really wanted that solo to reflect that feeling. It's not in the notes. It's not this. There's a lack of control in it, because it's bending and it's not stable, and that's kind of how it feels sometimes when you're on the road, and you don't feel stable, and you feel like you're bending all the time to everything. So I love it when a plan works out, in the right way, the way you intended.
On your finger-picking songs, like Closer to the Heart or The Trees, would you kind of put together little pieces and have these things waiting and like, this might be good for something?
I started playing guitar when I was 12 years old. I started on my brother-in-law's classical guitar. So he was a bit of a flamenco player, and he lent me his guitar, and that's kind of where the seed started. And then the following year, my parents bought me a Kent acoustic guitar, but it was like this high.
Yes.
It was, I think, it was $9. I begged for an electric, and they bought me a Kenora, which was a Canadian, Japanese-built guitar, which was $59. I remember, and that was my starting electric guitar. When I was, I guess, 17 or 18. I took classical guitar lessons for about a year. A friend of mine, Elliot Goldner, he was an amazing guitar teacher. He was my age. Like, we were friends in school. He was in a motorcycle accident and shattered his leg. So he was in a cast and out of school for a year. So I would go over and I'd get guitar lessons from him. He was teaching. Like, he was an amazing guitarist. And that got me going with this whole discipline of playing classical guitar, and I really liked that for that reason. I would practice so hard, and it is a very difficult thing to play, to master. And I have so much respect for all the great players. After about 10 months or so, we started playing bars. Drinking age was lowered from 21 to 18. Just at that time, we turned 18. So we went from playing, I think, 2 or 3 gigs a month to playing 6 gigs a week, matinees on Saturdays. And it sort of got away from me. When we were writing later on, opportunities came up, like for Pharaoh the Kings. It had a flair to it. And we recorded in the courtyard of the studio, and Neil had his bells, and Geddy with his line, and The Trees was the same sort of thing. It was just, I guess, because it was so pastoral where we were, that kind of informed that sort of approach. Closer to the Heart, that's Geddy's riff, the opening, and it's upstrokes, right? So the way he does
it's very awkward to play. Actually,
it's totally awkward to play.
Okay, all right. I'm glad it's not just me.
No, I don't even know if I can play it. It's all upstrokes, which I'm not. That's
makes
opposite.
sense
That's
now.
a bass player with his finger.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought, screw you. And then when we recorded it, played it on the 12 string to give it even more of a magical kind of.
Just to make it more difficult to play, right? I mean,
so
really.
It hurt more. Yeah.
Would Neil sit in when you be doing overdubs and stuff? Would he like to listen, or would he be working on lyrics?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, not all the time, but if he was around, yeah, he would.
Who's the one guy that would always be there if something's going on?
Well, generally, when I'm doing overdubs, there's no one else in the room.
Okay.
I would be in the room. Terry and Paul Northfield, who was recording those records.
Yep.
Even with Nick, Ged might wander in. He likes to be a part of everything, and he's very engaging. He's always engaged, so he always has a comment.
Yeah.
Neil was less so. He would come and he would just sort of sit in the back and listen. But I always much preferred it when I was in the room by myself. I could concentrate. I appreciate that people have ideas and they're only trying to help. But when you're working on something, you want to develop it. Having somebody say, "Hey, why don't you try? Why don't you try? Why don't you try?" It's the worst thing.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to come up with stuff. And then you only have a very short window of performance if you want to capture it, in the best way possible.
Is there anything that you remember where they're like, "Woo, Alex, that's a great part"? Is there anything that you can think of where they said that?
The garden, for example, we were working at Ged's house on that record, and he was away, and he said, if you want to come over and do some work, just come over and we'll let you in and blah blah blah. So he was away, and I came in. I was just getting caught up on some stuff, guitar stuff, and I got to the garden, and I just put that solo down on the garden, and after I did it, I left, and he came home, and he said, "What the hell did you do? This solo is one of your best solos ever." And I couldn't even remember what I did. I was like, "Oh, really?" Then I listened to it after being away from it for a bit, and I thought, "Oh, yeah, it really speaks for the song." So that we lifted and dropped it into the master tracks, again, from the demo. The same thing happened with Leave That Thing Alone, the solos in Leave That Thing Alone. It has that Celtic kind of feel to it, and it's just sort of wild but settled at the same time.
An improviser. I can tell this just from the way that Geddy described you.
Yeah.
That you're really spontaneous, so they better be ready to roll when you sit down with a guitar.
Yeah, because it's easy to lose some good stuff, and that has happened, and I haven't been able to get it back. And that's why we've always worked so well together. I'm that person. I'm that person in everything in my life. I'm just a spontaneous person. I'm a little emotional. I flare quickly and then die down quickly. Just one of those people. And it's particularly in any artistic endeavor, it happens really quickly. My painting is like that too. And whereas Ged is the opposite. He's very methodical. He has to hear everything wrong before he knows it's right. And that's been a really key thing to the way we work. And the things that we write, I tend to write things that maybe were a little rockier and a little more crazy. And he'll write things that are a little more melodic and warmer. And yeah, so it's a really, really great combo.
When Geddy would work on the melodies and stuff and be singing stuff, would you and Neil make comments like, "I think the melody should do this," or would Geddy just be really, "No, this is how the melody is"?
Didn't I just tell you about how awful it is having people around telling you what to do? I would never go in a room and do that. I would go in for support, and quite often at the studio, they had a nice couch by the front window, away from the mic, to talk back. And I would just sit there, and I would put my feet up and watch, maybe read a magazine and listen. But I would never make a comment about the vocals unless it was like, "Awesome, that's great, that sounds really, really good." I would never provide a direction or something like that. Whereas Neil would, because his lyrics, they had a really good relationship when it came. I don't know if I was a lyricist, how open I would be to that kind of collaboration, because quite often Neil would have a lot of stuff written, and obviously he'd been given a lot of thought. And Ged might say, I like what you're getting at, and I like this line, and the way you phrase these 4 words. Can we just start there and just go from there?
Because it might not fit his melody or whatever he had,
yeah,
right?
or the way he thought he needed to express it. Because he has to make it sound like it's
absolutely
his words. And Neil would always be there, to compromise, to try another direction. Always very, very open. They had a really good relationship as a singer and lyricist.
Tell me about the period of records where there were more keyboards. There's an art to coming up with parts that work with really dense keyboard parts.
I always loved the atmospherics. I've always been into effects. And for example, in the past, before the second verse, there's a guitar moment that's just layered guitars and volume pedal. And it's a beautiful moment. I love doing stuff like that because it sounds like a keyboard, really.
Yeah.
And when we got to the mid-'80s, when we were doing those dense keyboard records, it was really a challenge for me because, when we recorded those records, the keyboards went before the guitar. And I was sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting to do guitar stuff. And the more keyboard stuff I heard, then the more layers and the more layers and this and this and this and this. It was almost impossible for me to figure out how am I going to fit in here. And by the way, I'm the guitar player in this band. What happened? Did I resent it? Maybe I did a little bit, but I took it as a challenge, and it became a task. I had to figure out how I was going to get around this. The frequencies occupied by the keyboards are similar to heavy guitars.
Yep.
So you can't really take that approach to fit something in. So I switched guitars. Instead of playing like a Les Paul or a PRS, I got a single coil active pickup guitar. Now it was bright, it was very clear, and it could cut through all of that stuff. And that ended up being the primary guitar sound for those records, because that was the only way I felt I could fit in.
What amp were you playing through during that period, or what amps? Do you remember?
I had a lot of stuff in the studio when we would record. Like for the last record, I had 10,000 amps in there because of Nick. You got to try this, man. You got to try this, and he owned most of them. But I think back then I probably had a Fender Twin.
Yep.
I might have had a Marshall 100-watt with a 412 cabinet, as well as the smaller Marshalls.
Maybe like a JCM or something like that. JCM.
Yeah, 800? JCM. Yes. Yeah.
When I interviewed Kevin Shirley, who's a really good friend of mine, Kevin is not one to mince words.
No.
He talked about kind of getting back to playing more rock-oriented things. Would that have been at the start of the record then that you guys talked about that? That was a record like Peter was working.
Yeah, Peter worked on that record, and when we came to mix, that's when Kevin came in.
Yeah.
And like you say, Kevin's very outspoken. He's the caveman. He has an idea of the way rock music should sound.
Yeah.
And with his South African accent, he would say, what are you doing? Like, you guys are your Rush. What are you doing with these dinky, stupid direct sounds?
Alex is like, can I have some reverb? I'm like, no reverb. You don't play reverb. And you don't play PRS. Those are coffee tables. That's not a guitar. Play a real guitar.
And we would get into conversations over maybe a couple of drinks. And they would get kind of heated and nothing bad. But we would express ourselves. But I really started thinking about that. And, he had some good points. So we re-recorded a lot of guitar stuff with, a pure sound, me in the room recording, for example, rather than sitting in the control room, which I'd gotten quite used to. And there's a great advantage in doing it that way. Communication is direct.
Yep.
I think it's a more efficient way.
It's easy to hear yourself in the control room.
Yeah.
And you can talk to the producer, you can talk to the engineer. It's easier to punch in and stuff like that.
Right. But when you're in the room and the amps are turned up to 1 million, and you're fairly close, there's something really special that happens. The guitar is just vibrating like crazy. The neck's vibrating, you're vibrating, your teeth are vibrating. There's something that's so pure and complete in that. And I realized what he was getting at. That's what he wanted. He wanted that resonance. I record more like that now than I did in the past.
Really, you record in the room with the amp?
Yeah, if the opportunity is there. With the Envy of None stuff, no, I didn't. I recorded, at the console because I'm there by myself.
Right. Do you like doing that? Do you like recording by yourself like that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Again, nobody's there telling me what to do. If I don't like something, I schmeiss it. I erase it.
Yeah.
And start over. And sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's just the same. It's good to go through that exercise and have that freedom and that control.
There's that video of you with your parents.
Right. Yeah.
From, how old were you then?
I was 17.
Like, I don't want to make a bunch of money. Like, if I make a lot of money, that's great. But I'm not gonna go to university and get a big degree. Hang on, no, I don't. I don't want to drive around in a big car and get people to go, hey, there goes Alex. He's loaded with money and wow, he's really set himself up great.
That's not.
That's what I need.
And why was that recorded? I mean, that's so fascinating.
Yeah. So Alan King was a Canadian filmmaker. His style of filmmaking was cinema verite, which is kind of like reality TV or reality programming now. So he would move in with a subject for, in one case, the married couple, it was one of his most famous films. He moved in with this family for a year and filmed. He had cameras set up, lights set up, everything, just all the time. And he chronicled their demise, and they ended up divorcing, and it
probably because of that, right?
Could be, but he captured all of this stuff that, back in those days in the late 60s, that was really a novel approach.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make a movie about 10 kids from different parts of the city of Toronto moving into a farmhouse. An hour outside of Toronto, and just filming it for 10 weeks and seeing what sort of relationships develop, all of this stuff along those lines. So I auditioned for it, like 350 people auditioned for it, and I auditioned for it with two of my friends. The three of us got parts in it. So we represented that neighborhood that we were from. And we were paid $100 a week, and I'm 17, and I didn't have to go to school.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be tutored, but that didn't happen. So it was great. I just played guitar all day and got $100. It was amazing. It was like $1 million, isn't it?
Right.
So halfway through the filming of that film, and it was called Come On Children. Mm-hmm. Halfway through the filming, we invited our parents up to see what we were doing. Well, Alan's production team invited the parents to see what we were doing. So all the parents were there when that was shot.
Okay.
We just happened to be sitting there. And Jane, who was sitting beside me, rocking beside me, it was a really close friend of mine. She was one of the three people when we auditioned together. And she knew my parents really, really well.
Okay.
And we were just having a conversation over lunch and it just, it's kind of developed into a conversation about going to school and wanting to be a musician and loving music, and why do I need to learn about geography?
But that was all real, right?
That was all real.
Yeah,
I mean, and people ask me
amazing.
about it because it's on 16 millimeter film, and who films their dinner with their parents?
Right.
And this kind of quality.
Yeah.
But that was it. I just auditioned for this
That is
movie, got the
amazing.
part, and this was just our parents happened to be there. The other parents were in the rest of the house with their kids walking around and checking things out. The filmmakers that did our documentary came across that. It was never released for about 18 years when it was, I guess, purchased by the documentary channel or something. And I came across it just by chance once. I was totally freaked out. But
I mean, it really is so pertinent to what happened with the band then.
it's so perfectly teenage.
Right?
Yeah.
It is. Your
Yeah,
reaction
you can't tell
to
me
it.
what to do.
Yes.
I know better than you. I'm going to be a musician. I don't need money. I don't need a fancy car. So it's I think, certainly lots of 17-year-olds related to it.
Yes.
And it was true. I loved playing guitar. That's all I wanted to do. I just loved playing guitar. I didn't think I was very good, and I don't think I was very good, but I tried hard and I wanted to get better, and I I go inside of it. I don't know, it's corny to say that stuff, but it's not just a piece of wood with some metal strings on it. It's a being.
You know, Geddy talked about when you guys made Caressive Steel and that didn't go as well as the label had hoped. And he was talking kind of that your career was kind of taking off. And it wasn't until 2112 that it really was like, oh, okay, I think this is going to work.
Oh, yeah.
When did you know that this was going to really be a, you know?
Yeah, my parents, you know, my mom and Ged's mom were friends. Mm-hmm. They worried about us.
Yeah.
And they kind of had the same reactions at around the same time. It was when they saw us on TV. We were just doing an interview for a local TV station. And this was in the fall of '74. So we'd only just started kind of moving around. But they saw it and they went, oh my God, they're entertainers. That's what they are. They have a job. They have a job. That's okay. My parents wanted me to be like a dentist or an engineer, a profession that's where I could make a good living and all of that stuff. And I get it. You know, they came from Yugoslavia after the Second World War. They came as refugees to Canada. Mm-hmm. They worked hard. My dad worked in the mines. You know, we lived, all of us, both my parents, my grandparents, my uncles, we all lived in one house, and they struggled for a long, long time. So for them to know that their son or their children become something, and it's really, really, it was really, really important to them. It was around that time that they felt a little bit more at ease. Then we started playing local gigs, playing Maple Leaf Gardens and big shows, and we're now in their newspaper all the time. And so that, you know.
I mean, it's funny though that just them seeing you on TV, even if it's on like a local show like that they say, oh, okay.
It's the TV.
It's the TV. They're on TV. Okay, I get this now.
Yeah, not everybody's on the TV.
Alex, then you go and you're one of the biggest bands of all time. I mean, the chances of this career that's gone for decades and decades, what does it feel like?
I know, crazy, huh? It's, I remember thinking, like we'd already been a band for 6 years with John Rutsey, and we made the first record with him. So in a lot of ways, things were starting to look up. Mm-hmm. We were, you know, a good local band. We had a good following. Mm-hmm. When we filled the clubs when we played them. So, you know, the club owners liked us. So we had work every single week for every month of the year. When we got our record deal, it was for 5 records, and I thought if we could, and that was 2 records a year.
I know, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I thought if we could just hang on for 5 years, that's a pretty good lifespan for a band. I didn't expect it to stretch 40 years and now 50 years.
Yeah.
Never. Like, we're one of the few in history.
That's right.
To have done that. And when you're that kid there then, just getting excited about opening for Uriah Heep in Pittsburgh in '74, you can never possibly imagine that this is the road that you're on. And you know, you mentioned Caressive Steel. We were so excited about that record. It was such an experiment for us. Yeah. And it was an indicator to where we could go and the potential that we had, and we were just shot down.
Did you feel pressure after that on 2112?
Well, yeah, totally.
It was like, oh man, we better come up with something.
Yeah, couldn't you guys make another record like your first record? You know, like good rock stuff. And yeah, we were heavily in debt. Our managers had spent so much money just keeping us on the road, and there was a lot of pressure. And it was either we go home and I go work for my dad as a plumbing assistant, and or we just say, screw everybody, we're just going to make the record that we want to make, and if it fails, then at least it's, you know, it's our thing. We did it. And that was 2112, so that was our protest record, 2112. Yeah. And it didn't, you know, it wasn't instantaneous. It took a year for that record.
A year of touring and being out there and promoting it.
What happened was people really locked onto it. Yeah. And now, this happens to so many people. When you discover a band, you feel like that's your band.
Yeah.
I'm the only person that knows how great this band is. And that's kind of what happened, you know, one gig at a time. And by the end of that year, the record had gone platinum. We were on a much better track. Now the gigs were starting to come in. We were headlining more.
Yep.
That opened up things for Farewell to Kings, and we felt emboldened. And never was a record company executive or management allowed in the studio from that point on. They were, oh yeah, we believed in you, all the way we believed in you. But that bought us our independence, and we were precious with that.
If you had to pick one record where you feel like the songs and the production really were married together perfectly, where the sound of the record and the songs, what record would that be?
Well, I'd probably say Moving Pictures, because that's exactly what that record is. That record was a joy to make. Mm-hmm. We had so much fun making it. It was a cold winter in Quebec when we made it. Mm-hmm. But there's something about the sound of that record and the style of writing. There's just a uniformity in it, and yet every song is different. It's just one of those things that really worked out. Permanent Waves is like that too. Yeah. It's kind of overlooked at times, but it has a particular character to it. And I really like the songs on that record. Moving Pictures, but it would definitely be the one, because not all records are like that. Signals, I think, had a great material on it, good songwriting.
Yep.
But I was never happy with the production. I thought the original production just was not satisfying, and that, I think, was part of the reason that we wanted to explore other producers and working with other people. Grace Under Pressure, that's the one that I was thinking of. Grace Under Pressure was a very, very difficult record to make, because we were working now with a different producer who was more of just an engineer. So the production fell upon us on that record, and it was a brutally cold winter in Quebec, and we were exhausted. It went on for months and months and months.
The intro to The Spirit of Radio, how'd you come up with that lick? And why is it that everybody plays it wrong? What is it about that lick?
I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things that's simpler than it sounds.
Okay, how do you play it,
Okay.
Alex?
So the components are, there's a little bit of delay.
Yeah, a little delay. There's flange.
There's the flange, and then there's this. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
The artifacting?
Yeah. Okay, what flanger would that have been back then?
Oh, Electro Misters, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the flanger.
Now that is one of the most quintessential, recognizable licks, and it starts the song.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that came on the radio, it was like, whoa.
Yeah. We're talking about radio as an influence in music, particularly. But when I thought of radio, I thought of radio waves, and what could I create that has that spark, that electrical kind of activity? So we created that with the flanger and the little artifacting thing. I think we used some DDL line, that's an Eventide or something, just to create that little sparking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of has that evocative feel to it.
What is the most fun song to play?
Well, radio's fun to play. Mm-hmm. It's got so many great parts in it.
Yep.
I like playing Limelight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Witch Hunt is always a great song to play, because it's very basic. It's just those chords. There's no real solo or anything in it, but it's so heavy and scary.
I asked Geddy about this, but when you guys were coming up with the set, with the songs to play for the tour, I mean, I said to him, I made up my list of songs that you really kind of have to play, and there's like 18 of them or something. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Is that kind of, you start out your list, you're like, well, we kind of have to play these.
Yeah, this time around, we sort of did do that.
Yeah.
He may have told you that in the past, we've been, we would prep songs that we recorded for the new record.
Whatever
so
the latest
never
record
played
was.
them live.
Yeah.
So we needed to work on those arrangements and get comfortable with that. I think with this tour, just the nature of this tour, it's a celebration of all that music. Yeah. So we started with those songs that are to be expected, and then it was free fall after that. Songs that we just wanted to play. that we hadn't played in a while. We wanted to surprise people. The fact that we have about 38 or 39 songs now. I think in a given night, there are, I think about 20 songs, 22 songs. So that means we can, like when we're playing these cities where we're doing 4 nights or even 2 nights, we can mix it up so that it's not the same set, repeated, which is really great because then it makes it special, If you come to more than one show, there's the benefit of hearing other stuff.
Are you guys playing any places that you have never played before?
Krakow, Poland. That's a first.
Wow.
And in Brazil, Brasilia. There's another city in Brazil. I can't recall the name of it. So those are new gigs for us there. Basel, instead of Zurich. Yeah, we were going to do Zurich, but it's Basel now. So we haven't been there before. But I think that's about it. Yeah.
Alex, this is amazing. I really appreciate you spending the time with me today, and it's so great to meet you.
Oh, same here. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I'm really looking forward to coming out and seeing you guys play.
Yeah. Oh, good. You'll have to let us know how we did.
It's going to be great.
That'll be great.
Cool.
Good.
Thank you so much.